It was a rainy Wednesday night. I was cooking dinner, singing Beyonce, getting ready to start on my cornbread when I realized I was all out of eggs. Don't you hate when that happens? But no big deal. Eggs were still 99 cents back then. And, and my husband needed to go to the gas station anyway, so he said he'd grab eggs and be right back. And sure enough, 20 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. But it wasn't my husband. It was police telling me he had been shot and killed 1 block away from our home at the gas station. I was 29 years old with the toddler at my feet and the infant on my hip. In Atlanta, it was just me and my babies. All of my family 6 hours away in Kentucky. I didn't know who did this, why, did they know where we live, would they come back to our house at night? My husband was killed in our only car, and so I couldn't drive to stay at a hotel. I called 2 Ubers, and neither would take me without car seats. It was the scariest night of my life. In the blink of an eye, everything changed. I was left with a mountain of grief and an even higher mountain of expenses. For safety reasons, immediately within those first 30 days, I moved to a new home and bought a new car. And quickly, I learned why more than half of widowed women live paycheck to paycheck. The financial weight alone is enough to crush anyone. And then you add the stigma, the whispers and stares when I returned to work, the bravest who'd walk right up and ask, "I'm so sorry, but what happened?" And as you can imagine, their questions and assumptions only worsened once I mentioned gun violence. How many of you have already made an assumption? My son's principal did. A young Black family driving a nice car, her kids attend a top school, the husband was shot and killed. He must be a drug dealer, a gang member, or it's Atlanta, maybe she's a stripper. Listen, figuring out how to be a solo parent was enough without this lady's microaggressions every time I went to my son's school. And while I say that the normal aspects of learning to be a solo parent were hard enough, I had more than normal. My son's autism diagnosis came just about a month after we lost his dad. And suddenly I'm making important medical decisions that I don't understand, and I don't have his dad here to talk to about any of it. But it wasn't just the autism, it was my daughter's first birthday, her first words. Every holiday, every milestone, an entire year of firsts to remind me of his absence and my inability to feel it. Just when I thought, whew, we survived the first year, a windstorm caused a huge tree to fall on our new home. It almost crushed my son and I, trapped my daughter in her room, and left us homeless, living out of my car from hotel to hotel. And I remember our last night, I had run out of money, run out of people to ask for money. Checkout was 10:30 a.m., and I had no idea what I was going to do. And I just cried, and I asked, why me? I did everything right. I went to college, I got good grades, I got married, I had kids. Why am I left out in the streets to fend for myself like I'm a widow of the street? A street widow. But the crazy thing about this life that we live is that it is only through tragedy that superheroes are born. And Batman lost both of his parents to become Batman. Tyler Perry lived out of his car to become Tyler Perry. And I had to lose my husband to become Ashlee Johnson, founder of the Street Widows Foundation. And it's been through my work with the foundation and the Street Widows podcast that I've come to understand I'm not alone at all. There were 47,000 victims of gun violence in 2023 alone. Y'all, that's enough to fill Madison Square Garden twice. And it doesn't stop there. Every day, overdose deaths and incarceration shatter families, leaving millions of street widows to do the impossible. I mean, think about how difficult it is raising successful children under normal circumstances. I mean, we all have that one, am I right? Now, think about when your child's 60% more likely to be arrested before their 18th birthday. Not because they did anything, just the cards they were dealt. Our children are at higher risk for mental health issues, substance use, incarceration, drugs, violence, and they don't stand a chance against any of that without a strong parent leading them. And without the proper support, street widows don't stand a chance at being that strong parent. This is why street widows should have the first seat at any table planning violence reduction strategies. It's why our policemen should be required to ask, how many children are impacted by this loss when they arrive at the scene of a homicide? It's why our court system should be required to report incarcerated parental rates. This sounds like common sense to me. And the thing about street widows is that we have the power to change, but we need sidekicks to help us out. And while life has taught me that I am a superhero, it's also taught me that every superhero needs a sidekick. Just a couple days ago, on February 19th, 2025, I reached the 5-year widowhood mark. And I say that with a smile on my face because I'm proud of all the things I survived beyond my wildest dreams in the past 5 years, but it truly took a village. Now, I know that solving gun violence sounds impossible, but that's what superheroes and sidekicks are for. The impossible. Listen, I know you didn't sign up, but today it's sidekick training. That's my superhero voice. Yeah, you all ready to become sidekicks? Listen, there's 4 rules that you must know about being a sidekick. Rule number 1, don't pry. We know that you want to know what happened. And if we're ready to tell you, we will share that. But asking insensitive questions, it's like picking at a scab. It reopens healing wounds for widows. Number 2, create space, whether it's in your professional life, your personal life, with street widows you know or you meet. Hear their stories. Listen to understand their experience and how you can support. Number 3, guys, don't assume. Remember my son's principal, who I'm pretty sure she assumed I was a stripper by the color of my skin, the curves of my hips, and the last one, I'll kind of give it to her. We are in Atlanta, or we were, so, But those microaggressions turned macro when I finally stood up to her and said, I have flexibility with my time during the day because I'm a real estate broker. And her response was, oh, good for you. Imagine had I told her, I hold a bachelor's degree in journalism, a master's degree in organizational communication, a real estate broker's license in the state of Georgia, and a real estate salesperson's license in the state of Kentucky. Rule number 4, for the love of God, no more lasagna. I know that at these rates, we're running out of casseroles to bring the grieving, but how much lasagna can a widow take? Sheesh. Listen, on a serious note, Street widows can be the result of gun violence in Louisville, a vigilante shooter in New York, or a school shooting in Texas. There is no monopoly on grief, and you never know how much you have in common with those who you judge until you become one of them. Street widows are superheroes. We shouldn't have to be, but we are. We are this nation's greatest untapped resource. We are the unexplored path to liberation from gun violence in America. And that's an idea worth sharing.